Well, hey guys, welcome back to the Casual Word and Casual Word Radio. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you're watching from. We want to continue our endeavor to change the world one word at a time. As promised, I've got Rayan back on. We're going to be talking more about life in the Middle East over in the Mediterranean area and just how that affects his process, how that affects his everyday life. So if you guys continue to join us, we'll be delving into different aspects of life over there, not only from his perspective, but what we're seeing globally, what we're hearing, and really trying to get a ground level view, if you will, of what life is like, and not just what mass media is telling us. Because we see some of the stories, and maybe you don't, I don't know, but you read some of these things, you're hearing about it in the news, and you're thinking, man, I wonder what it's really like over there during all this. And so here this man is, a great man, great friend of mine, again, a pilot, poet, writer, truly an inspiration. I've been following him for some time. So we will just jump right in. First of all, man, thank you again for being back on. I'm just excited about all the things that we'll be discussing over the next few weeks.
Of course, man. Thanks again for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to be able to provide that authentic information for the people, for you, and yeah, it's gonna be good. So thanks again for having me.
Oh, absolutely. So as you and I kind of discussed offline, and what we'll kind of let the listeners know is that we wanted to begin our individual topics about the economic climate. I think with the pandemic going on, and of course you can talk more about that explosion in Beirut. I didn't really even know that till you mentioned it last week, and then I had to go and really do some research about that. And so because of the things that are going on, of course, there's been civil war for decades over there. Excuse me. And I think people don't understand what life like that actually looks like. And of course, you can't get the full experience unless you're there. However, that aside, we can certainly have the discussion about, the experiences you've been growing up, living in Lebanon. So, let's just talk about the economy. As I understand it, you guys are kind of in a catch-22 situation where your currency is bottoming out while your inflation is quadrupling.
Exactly. So I'm just gonna give you this brief context of what happened in the last couple of years. So in 2019, around October, we had a huge revolution by the people for the people, and it was running well. It was very aggressive as a revolution should be, and it was loud. It went on for a while. I can't remember when it exactly kind of stopped, but the revolution basically began. We started seeing these increase of prices. People got sick of the toxic political environment, and it just became very draining for everyone. There's so much divide here, so many different political and religious parties, and mixed together, and it's all very dirty. It's all very messed up. So on the economic side, it's definitely going to get affected negatively. And as you mentioned, inflation, in fact, hyperinflation, and it's really scary. So our currency, basically, the Lebanese pound, just for a small example, $1 is equal 1,500 Lebanese pounds. That's fine. That's how it usually was. And currently, currently a dollar is equal to 20,000 Lebanese pounds. Now, back then, let's say basically bags of chips, small bags of chips, you could buy with 1,000 Lebanese pounds in those small, tiny shops. We call them the kenes. They're just small places. You could get like 4, 5, 6, maybe sometimes like 2,000 of just bags of chips, big bags, small bags. So that used to get you a lot. And same for grocery shopping. 50,000 would get you like a bunch of groceries and such. And so now, uh, the dollar being a 20,000, uh, you can barely get anything because everything else is now according to this rate, and it's near impossible to provide for yourself, for your family. Um, yeah, it's quite a scary situation. We can get into more details, but this
So
is the general. Yeah,
yes, for everybody who may not understand that conversion, in that example that he gave, imagine a bag of chips costing about 99 cents or a dollar. We'll say that roughly. And then you go into the store and that same bag of chips is $20. That's about what he's saying. So you guys can have an understanding of what this hyperinflation looks like. Imagine that something that you usually spend 99 cents, 50 cents, a dollar, maybe $1.50 on is now costing you 20 or $25 for the same amount. Okay, so that's what we want you guys to understand in this economic crisis that they're in, is you're not getting any more, it's just costing more money.
yeah. In some cases, you might actually get less, because they're downgrading the proportions, the sizes of things, um, sizes of sandwiches. Sometimes, I don't know, they just get smaller, or they use smaller pieces of bread because they can't afford to use the larger ones or even get them. Um, all the way down to simply purchasing gum can get to like a gum that used to cost less than 1,000 liras, the Lebanese pounds, now costs more than 30 or 40,000, which is
Astronomical.
insane. Yeah. So just imagine how, just getting vegetables or something like that. Yeah, it's greatly affecting us. So
Let's look at that revolution. I'm curious about that because that's one thing that I've seen in other places. I think it was I think Sweden had a successful revolution, or they overthrew their government at one point, fairly recently. Um, and you guys have done the same thing. I know there's going to be a fallout, and there's going to be a ripple effect, right? There's going to be some things happening in the wake of that. However, let's talk a little bit about that, because it's interesting to me that you see that kind of thing happening in other countries. Sometimes violently, a lot of times non-violent, aggressive, like you said, but not really violent. And then you look here in the United States, obviously, and you see, just like you said, this toxic political climate. You see people going crazy, and yet we feel as though, even though our declaration says that we have the right, we have the right to overthrow our government. We see that like people are scared to death to stand up, stand up for what's right, and stand up for equality, and stand up for people actually being able to eat, and whatever that looks like, right? But basic human rights, right? We see here that it's so difficult to band together. How were you guys able to do that successfully? I mean, what was it? Obviously, it took a large populace to be able to pull that off. But how was it? How did you able to rally around that?
Well, first, I wouldn't 100% call it successful. It, regardless of the fallout, it's still not successful, and you can't blame everyone. People are definitely sick of it, but they're definitely weak, very weak from it. So it's very difficult to get it somewhere. And I mean, you have you, you have so many people that some people are in good conditions, are realizing that how messed up this is. Even the ones in good conditions are not even being able to get what they need, because sometimes it's not even available. It's not even about the price anymore. So we're lacking, for example, currently, medicines. We lacked, for a while, we lacked some bread and milk and such, and like for kids. And so it's this really powerful state of mind that you can't just put it aside. The reality of what's happening is is terrifying, and it's very unacceptable. So you have all these people, and plus the people who are already in terrible conditions. You can't imagine what they're going through. And it's just, you just look at everything. It's really this, it's disgusting, it's you get more than sick of it. So people are you see them, a lot of them are just no longer afraid. They don't really care anymore. A lot of them are not even able to leave the country. So because they don't have, I guess, proper working visa or another passport. Uh, so you have this state of mind where it's like, well, I can't leave and I can't do much for myself here. So
Mhm.
I have to revolt. I have to fight back.
They just
And
want to have nothing left to lose, I suppose.
yeah. And people are traumatized. And like you mentioned from the explosion, which I'll jump into that later. Um, and especially the people from the older generation, my parents, my grandparents, they tell us that they've never seen anything like this, especially when it comes to the economic side of things. Even back in the war, they have never seen this, never jumped all the way back, all the way up there in terms of the dollar and the Lebanese pound. This never happened. So, people are just, they're not having it, and they have the right not to have it. And
Okay.
so, yeah, that's it, basically.
Okay. Yeah. So, guys, just as we are continuing to talk, whenever you guys tune into this, we're talking about the economic crisis, which right now is being touted as one of the top three economic crises in the entire world currently in Lebanon, and they say that this might be one of the worst peacetime economic crises they've ever seen since maybe the 1800s. So, we're talking about something that is historic in its magnitude, and also just meteoric in its impact.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really tough time, and just general living conditions, basic human needs are, a lot of them are not available. Um, I mean, the water, the electricity, and such, all of that. I'm lucky to currently have my electricity on right now, and but for a lot of people I know, and a lot of people in general in this country, they simply don't have the generators on because they can't provide the fuel and the oils for it, and or they're just not there. Um, so yeah, like it's there's no way you can just sit here and wait and look around you and do nothing. It's
Right.
impossible. Everyone has to do something, whether you like it or not, whether you want to work or not, whether you want to rebel or not. There's no way you can be fine and sit and do nothing about it. So
Yeah. I've seen that I guess the majority of people have just stopped eating meat. Along with, like you said, the lack of dairy and some other essentials has really caused you all to change your diet, which of course makes you physically weak and then exacerbates your mental condition. And I know the heat situation is getting very dire out there with not being able to keep electricity on. And I think about that because we have that situation here. We are dealing with a corrupt leadership when it comes to our utility provider, and we're seeing that inflation in cost while still not being able to keep the power running. And there was a time when obviously during a storm or maybe some inclement weather or leading up to it, we might lose power, but now we're seeing power just drop for no reason. A beautiful sunny day, nothing's going on, and the power just goes out. And we've seen that from an hour to 8 hours to 12 hours at a time. And so, like you, I understand that, especially in this kind of heat or in the heat that you guys experience over there in the Middle East and the Mediterranean area, it's important to be able to keep your body cool. The heat exhaustion and the deaths from heat are a very real thing, and so it's not even going to be a question about how you guys are mitigating that because it's almost impossible. But I do want to ask, because I am working with some individuals who are working with organizations to provide solar and some other alternative means of being able to generate power in order to keep their air on and their appliances. Are you guys have anything like that at your disposal, or is anybody trying to work with any other governing bodies or not or NGOs to get some kind of solution?
So in the past couple months, I've seen some people's buildings, they have some solar panels installed, but to my personal knowledge, I'm not sure what's really going on with that. All I know is that it's rare to be seen here. Um, it's definitely a great idea, but it's extremely expensive. Just to get them and to install them is even more expensive. And so yeah, it's there, but it's not really there.
Is your government and to your knowledge, just from what you've seen, but I think this is always something that we have to bear in mind. Are they blocking some of this aid? Is that what it seems like? Because as you read it, again, this is just mass media, what I'm able to glean through research. It seems as though, I know there's corruption, like you said, and there's this toxic political environment, and there's a lot of embezzling, a lot of things are happening in the government. Do you think they are blocking some of the aid that is available or could be available to you all?
No,
That's a loaded question, man, but I just from your perspective,
it's very possible. Maybe not directly blocking it, but it's for me, the way I see it, it's really just like a lot of things are scripted in my perspective. A lot of things are, it's like this big play, and a lot of puppets, a lot of things going on behind the scenes that I think some of us or most of us know about, and it's like done on a timely basis. I don't know. It's very possible, but I can't say for sure.
Sure. It's just a question I just wanted to pose, just because it's something that we deal with here. We see the puppetry, like you said, right? You see the marionettes and you see the timing, and you have to start wondering, like, okay, this seems to have been done intentionally, and whether for good or for bad. And so it's just a shame that we are the victims of this grand play, right, and this grand design that people are playing with other people's lives and livelihoods. So with that being said, let's just move over a little bit as we talk about the economic climate and the things that are happening right now. Let's look at that explosion. I know that there's been civil war. Was this explosion, because I know that in the 90s, by and large. So was this something of, I hate to use the term terrorist act, but was this just an act of terror, if you will, by any set of organizations, or was this an accident? I mean, I don't, and what I could find, I never saw anyone have any sort of real knowledge of what happened.
Yeah, that's because a lot of us, as much as we know how corrupt the system is, we're not really given any direct answer to what really happened. Until now, it's been a year. It's August the 4th, specifically, for everyone who doesn't know. But I mean, a lot of people, they say, oh, it was this country, or it was us, or it was an accident, or there was actually an incident 2 days ago that I don't know if it was shown on the news or anything, but there were two different parties that were shooting at each other, because they're actually like political / religious parties. And one of them, they have there's this person, he's a judge, and he was appointed to go and investigate the port explosion, just, I don't know why, 2 days ago, for just to investigate. and the other party did not like that, and they actually had a feud with bullets and explosives. And it was really rough. It was a total war zone. It was very scary, actually. I was out, and I guess with that said, they kind of exposed themselves, but who knows? You know,
Right,
there's,
right.
I would say there are still more options to explore, but yeah, that's what most people are betting on. Like it was them, but
Yeah,
I don't like
it's
to
still
jump.
speculative at this point,
Yeah.
uh, but certainly traumatic. And like you said, as a creative, as a person trying to make a living, as someone who's trying to have some semblance of personal life and a social life, how does all of this impact that? I mean, I know it's got to be mentally draining, of course, and emotionally draining, of course. And I know it's a lot of us who are creative, we dive into our work for that outlet. But, also for those who may not have a creative outlet, if you could just kind of think if you didn't have that, or when you don't have an opportunity to be creative and you're trying to just do your job and live your life and, date or whatever, how does that impact all of those aspects of socialization?
So for the people who don't have that outlet, which I don't even like saying who don't have, I think everyone can just grab a piece of paper and write down anything they want.
Mhm.
Like, but let's say for the people who don't think of doing that, it's definitely much harder for them. I think for these people, they, I think they can only see it as fighting with actual violence other than fighting with words and communication, um, and just expressing themselves, which puts them in a much tougher position to live day by day because they don't have a way of expressing that anger other than having a toxic environment at home, being stressed all the time, not being able to go to these open mics or whatever, or just write for themselves even. A lot of people don't think of doing that, and it's hard for them, especially after going through that trauma. We all have that PTSD floating in us at the moment, and and so for a creative like me, though, it's definitely still very difficult. But we have our platforms and we have our tools. We know how to use them. We've put them to use, and still putting them to use. Because otherwise, I feel like you know if you don't, you lose a big mental, psychological part of yourself that is crucial to your everyday survival, or at least everyday sanity.
Absolutely. I apologize for moving around, and I think the heat from my laptop is giving my camera a fit. So I apologize, everyone who's going to be watching this. I'm trying to make sure my camera stays stable here, and I think it's just my CPU is getting a little hot sitting on this desk. So I'm just trying to give it some airflow.
It's all right. So yeah, no, but like for, I guess, for the creatives again, um, we have a way of expressing, and we continue to till this day, and there's always so much to say, and so much, all the anger, all the PTSD, all the trauma just comes out, flows, very naturally because it's real, really happened, and it really drained us. And so every time you think that, oh, it can get worse, it definitely does. So
Right, right, and that's just unfortunate. So how do you deal with the non-creative side of life during all this? I guess that may not be the proper way to ask that question. The things outside of your creative outlet, how do you manage those?
um, As in for the people who don't have the creative outlet, you
But
mean?
just for yourself personally, what's just your personal account when you got to go to work and there's stuff happening that's crazy, or you're trying to have a nice night out on a date or hang out with your friends, and you got something going on. Sorry guys for that noise in the background. Got some guys outside working. How do you manage that? Does it give you because you don't want to, we don't want to live in a spirit of fear, right? And so you don't want to not do anything for fear, but you also have to be aware that there's a very real danger.
Yeah, exactly. You cannot run away from the reality of things. Every day you have to get out of bed. You have to either exercise, you have to go to work, you have to commit to your obligations. And but I think that's better than almost not doing anything, because if you sit at home all day, thinking that it's probably better um, if you do nothing, it will haunt you either way. So
Right.
I think it's better if you, of course, you have to have your resting days. You have to cherish those moments where you can get a break. But getting your work done is very important, and to try to get around the thoughts and the feelings is near impossible. I think it's just you just have to you just have to be there and do what you need to do. There's no real there's no real loophole. It's no matter how much you try to convince yourself that, oh, today is going to be fine, even and eventually hopefully does, but you can't be sure, because we like this country has really proved for us that day by day anything could happen. And so we're no longer at a point where we can say, oh, today hopefully nothing should happen.
Right.
But that's not it. And we know that really anything could happen, whether it's in my city and further city north, or whatever, it's 70 kilometers away, something's going to happen. And even if nothing happens, you can't really get around it. That's what sucks. We became just we just got it got us used to thinking this way.
Yeah.
And
You become accustomed to
yeah,
to the violence and to the atrocity and to the thought that, hey, you know what, this is how it is.
yeah.
And
And
it shouldn't be that way.
exactly. And the most, I think, toxic part of all this is that a lot of things, even though we rebel against them, a lot of things are eventually normalized. They turn into jokes. They turn into, oh, like, oh, you heard gunfire. Oh, yeah, don't worry, it's just gunfire. Like it's the everyday thing. That's the toxic thing. It should not be normalized, and a lot of it is.
And that's a great point. Before we get off today, that's something that I do want to address, because that's something that I've mentioned on social media. I see other people mentioning it, and it's something that we need to be thinking about. In whatever belief system that you practice, and the things that we hold dear that are part of our psyche, right, and part of our spiritual makeup, is that we're turning into a race, as a human race, that is definitely normalizing and finding, like you said, not only levity, but acceptance in things and actions and conduct that just are not things that we should be doing. Whether it's violence, whether it's perversion, whether it's some of the things that other things that we see going on. I see it all over social media, and it's like that's not okay. Just because it's happening doesn't make it okay. And I think we need to be aware and have that presence and that courage about us to say, what, I'm not going to be part of that. And more people should do that, because there are a lot of things that I'm saying, like, oh, let's just normalize this. Let's just make this the status quo. And I'm like, that's not at all okay. And you don't have to have a faith system to see that it's not okay.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, that's how it is. There's one small important point before we leave that I want to mention is that for the people who are on the creative side, who use the creative tools, unfortunately, a lot of our content the past year has turned into or has shifted into, you know, all this, what goes on the explosion, the corrupt system, the economic crisis. We talk about it. It's good to talk about it, but it also strays us away from the things we want, the things that we want to talk about, like for example the growth of our characters, or maybe something happy for a change, you know. And it's sad that it's shifting it away to this dark side of things. Even though it is important, it's still tiring that it's so repetitive.
Right.
We Yeah.
It's not the only thing that there is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a hard place to be, because especially with creatives, right? I mean, we are an extension of our experiences, right? And the art that we create is a further extension of our perception of those experiences. And it's really hard to tear yourself away from that when you're trying to be creative, because you know, if this is what you've known, whether it be for 2 weeks or 2 years, like that's going to come out in your work. But I think that you all, and we all, I don't want to just put it on you guys because we do the same thing. And I think all creatives have a responsibility to also discuss solutions in their art. And also, like you said, to change the narrative and discuss something that is positive and uplifting. Sure, these things are real. Sure, they're happening. We're not downplaying that, but there's more to life. And as creatives, that's part of our chore, is to bring something vibrant to the world, and not just continue to perpetuate the darkness that we're seeing.
Precisely. Precisely. It's very healthy for us, and unfortunately we can't constantly achieve that, but yeah.
But it's a work. It's a work. Well, man, listen,
Yeah.
I appreciate you talking to me today. I know this is a bit more of a difficult topic, and but it's things that we need to discuss. Like you said, a lot of people in the rest of the world have no idea what's going on, and I thank you for being open and transparent with sharing what that's really like, and just giving us more insight. You know, we only know what we see, and we only get to know what we're being fed, right? And so this is a great chance for us to really get a better understanding of, you know, what's going on. And it's not just about what's going on, and it's about how it affects the human condition. It's about how it affects the creative mind. It's about how it affects your faith system, and how it affects what you believe in. And do you believe anymore because of the things that you're seeing, and the atrocities that you're exposed to? So it's important for everybody who's going to watch this to understand, you know, we're bringing this gentleman on not only because he's a friend of mine and a fantastic creative mind, and we share a lot of genuine similarities in our faith, in our walks, and our discussions, but also because he's going through something that most people will never have to experience. And so, for as bad as we think our life is, this is a chance for you to see firsthand and hear firsthand what genuine despair can look like. And so I just want you guys to count your blessings, for everybody who, as you guys continue to watch a series with he and I, count your blessings, and be thinking about all the things that you should be thankful for, because certainly, as he said earlier, it could always be worse. And in fact, it is worse in a lot of other places.
Of course, man. I really appreciate every single word you said. It means the whole world to me, and it really means to me that you're also putting up this platform for me to speak up, and for other people to speak up as well about their experiences, their creative minds, and just their walks in lives. It's very important. And yeah, I really do appreciate this. I feel refreshed after doing this. It's healthy. It's a good thing, and we should keep doing this. So yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, and we appreciate you again taking your time out to be here, guys. Be on the lookout. We're going to attempt to do this next Saturday. I'll be traveling some, but I should be at a point for us to be able to do this next week. We want to be consistent in not only having this gentleman on, but also in just giving you guys more information, and getting greater exposure. As he and I have talked offline, kind of give you a spoiler alert. He's got several people in mind from his community and other communities, other areas, that we're going to start bringing on, so that we can continue to explore what life is like in other parts of the world. And if you guys know people who are from other parts of the world, please reach out to me, because it's a joy, it's a privilege to learn more about other cultures and other lifestyles. So with that, Rayan, thank you again, man, for being here. Look forward to seeing you again next week.
Of course, man. My pleasure. My pleasure. Likewise.
Guys, quick announcement. Yesterday, we did the official release of my book, 40 Days and Nights, Journey Through the Wilderness. As you guys heard me talk about, this is my personal journey through some of the toughest times in my life. Nothing like what's happening over there, but certainly for me, some very, very dark moments and some very dark times. So guys, get out and get yourself a copy. It is available now on Amazon. Also, be on the lookout here in a couple of weeks. We'll be launching the Midday Bible Discovery, where I'll be doing what would most call a Bible study, but we're going to do it at noon on Thursdays, give you guys something refreshing, give you a pick me up, get you through the rest of your week, get you through the rest of your day, learn something that you can apply, and just looking forward to that. So guys, just a lot of things coming up. Be on the lookout for some other big projects. I'm collaborating with several people. We're going to be really trying to continue to bring the word, to bring encouragement, to bring uplifting, and to bring a light to a dark world. So again, we have Rayan here from Lebanon. It's been a pleasure, sir. God, I just can't thank you enough for your willingness and your openness to be here and talk with us today.
Of course, man. Thank you. Thank you for the platform again. Thank you.
Well, guys, that's it for us. As always, let's change the way that we think so we can change the way that we live. Until next time, stay blessed.